What if, not in thousands of years, but within your lifetime, a whole nation might submerge under the sea? This is the awful reality that the Maldives, the world's lowest-lying country, must deal with. It's not a scenario from a catastrophe movie. Scientists warn that the Maldives may be engulfed by the seas by the end of this century, with over 80% of its islands sitting less than 1 meter above sea level. Instead of giving up, however, the Maldives has begun one of the world's most ambitious survival projects, a race worth an estimated $10 billion to engineer nature itself, build floating towns, and build new land. So how do you prevent a country from going under? On the brink of paradise lies the Maldives. It seems to be paradise on Earth with its white sand beaches, azure lagoons, and famed coral reefs. However, underlying this picture-perfect beauty comes an impending disaster. Only 2.4 meters above sea level is the nation's highest natural peak. This implies that whole islands might be destroyed by even a little increase in water levels. Due to erosion and inundation, 14 Maldivian islands have already been abandoned. Additionally, according to some experts, 80% of the country may become uninhabitable by 2050. With groundwater supplies gone on 97% of islands, fresh water is already running out. The coral reefs that shield the islands from the seas are dying and bleaching. Additionally, the water moves farther inland with each decade due to bigger storms and higher tides. The Maldives refers to themselves as the front line of climate change for this reason. The administration has acknowledged that survival would cost billions of dollars because of this. What is the source of this astounding $10 billion figure? Building sea barriers, elevating land, and relocating people are all necessary to protect over 200 populated islands from sea level rise. Currently, the Maldives invests around $10 million annually on coastal defenses. However, they predict that saving the country would cost $8 to $10 billion, which is about twice the GDP of the whole country. For comparison, just $24 million has been allocated for initiatives in this region by the UN Climate Fund, a drop in the ocean in comparison to the actual requirement. As a result, the Maldives is looking to innovative solutions that go beyond engineering. First, let's go to the capital. With more than 200,000 people crammed into 2 square kilometers of land, Malé is among the most densely populated cities on the planet. After the 2004 tsunami, a massive concrete seawall was constructed to enclose the island and keep the water at bay. But the situation cannot be resolved by walls alone. Higher land is necessary for the Maldives. Here comes the city of hope, Hulhumalé. Hulhumalé, a man-made island within a short distance from Malé, was formed by injecting millions of tons of sand from the seafloor. It was twice the height of the natural islands, elevated 2 meters above sea level. More than 50,000 people now call it home, and up to 240,000 people, nearly half of the country's population, will soon be able to move in. Wide highways, solar-powered structures, contemporary water systems, and storm-resistant infrastructure are all features of this new metropolis that were created with resilience in mind. Hulhumalé is essentially the Maldives' insurance policy against sea level rise. A fortress city, a secure area, and a survival mindset. But what if there is insufficient land? What if the sea level continues to rise? Another bold concept that the Maldives is banking on is floating cities. The world's first large-scale floating town is underbuilt in a small lagoon close to the city. The Maldives Floating City, which is composed of thousands of hexagonal platforms that rise and fall with the water, was designed by Dutch engineers and would seem from above like a massive coral reef. With residences, schools, hospitals, and even stores floating on the water, it will eventually host some 20,000 people. To aid with wave protection, fresh coral reefs will be planted underneath the platforms. This is not only a dream of the future, it is now being built. The floating metropolis is more than just architecture to Maldivians. It is a declaration that they will rise with the sea if it continues to rise. The coral reefs of the Maldives served as organic barriers for generations. They safeguard the delicate islands by reducing wave energy by up to 97%. However, These reefs are being destroyed by huge bleaching episodes brought on by warmer waters. 70% of coral cover was destroyed in 2016 alone. NGOs and scientists are now working feverishly to restore them. Nationwide, artificial reefs, 3D printed reef structures, and coral nurseries are being planted. Under their lagoons, resorts are even cultivating coral gardens. Additionally, mangroves are being restored and conserved. These coastal woods serve as storm protection barriers, maintain the beach, and trap silt. To build a multi-layered barrier against climate change, the Maldives plans to invest in concrete barriers, new islands, and natural defenses. However, not all islands can be rescued. Some are just too costly, too little, or too far away to be protected. For this reason, the Maldives has started moving residents from islands that are at risk to ones that are bigger and safer. The long-term plan is to move people onto safe islands like Hulhumalé, which are linked by transportation networks and bridges. Since many Maldivians have strong ties to their home islands, this is debatable. However, the government contends that it's preferable to losing everything to the water. As a last resort, some politicians have even thought of purchasing territory elsewhere. However, the Maldives has said unequivocally today that they would not leave their country. They will alter it instead. The truth is that survival also relies on the rest of the world, regardless of how many towns or barriers the Maldives constructs. The Maldives' share of the world's carbon output is a pittance. However, some of the harshest effects are felt by it. Ibrahim Solih, the former president, threatened to declare the nation doomed if global warming increased by more than 2 degrees. Maldivian leaders are thus among the most vocal speakers at climate summits. The Maldives has come to represent urgency on a global scale, from Nasheed's well-known underwater cabinet meeting in 2009 to current calls for climate financing. However, the world has been sluggish to provide so far. The billions of dollars in climate funds that were promised are still stuck in red tape. The Maldives must now borrow funds, collaborate with private developers, and rely on tourist earnings to fund its continued existence. Will the Maldives be successful then? Projects like the Floating City and Hulhumalé, on the one hand, demonstrate amazing inventiveness. Mangrove planting and coral restoration demonstrate that nature is still capable of retaliating. Furthermore, a network of fortress islands might maintain a large portion of the nation livable with sufficient finance. However, time is of the essence. By the end of the century, sea levels are expected to increase by up to 1 meter. Regardless of how high the barriers are constructed, it may drown large portions of the Maldives. In actuality, the Maldives cannot do this on their own. The $10 billion race could only buy time, not ensure survival, unless there is a significant worldwide effort to reduce emissions. The Maldives is more than just a vacation spot. It is the battleground for the destiny of our world. What transpires here serves as a warning to coastal towns from Lagos to London and from Miami to Mumbai. It won't end there if the world allows the Maldives to sink. Everyone will be affected by rising oceans. There is more than one country involved in the $10 billion race to preserve the Maldives. The question is whether mankind can innovate, adapt, and move quickly enough to save our beloved things from the climatic problem. Thus, the issue still stands. Will we help the Maldives thrive, or will we let it fail? Please share this video if you think it's important. Discuss it, because the first step to taking action is awareness. Remember to like this video, subscribe, and enable alerts if you would want to see more in-depth tales on innovation, megaprojects, and our evolving world. There is a race to rescue the Maldives.